What is up, nerd friends? Welcome back to the Nerd Bench. It's a big deal. Fusion Pro Elite. New Fusion Pro Elite dropped just a couple days ago. I have one for a fresh unboxing. We're gonna pop it open, take a look, and talk about the differences. Classic QuicRun packaging. Let's get this new Fusion Elite open up and checked out. Now, it's not just a smaller Fusion Pro. This Fusion Pro Elite has some new features and a little bit wider operating range as well. Ah, you always hear the angels sing when you open up new electronics, don't you? Inside the box, you do get a servo extension, just in case you can't get it plugged into your receiver box or whatever, or maybe you just need to have an accessory item. This is a servo extension. This is also a double-ended harness that comes for programming it with either the LED program card or the LCD Program Box Pro. You get a couple zip ties, and your best friend in the whole wide world, the instruction manual. So I know everybody always gets their instruction manual out to read it right away. Of course, why wouldn't you? I'm gonna put the graphic on the screen. Speed control in the new Fusion Pro Elite is rated for 50 to 150 amps, and what that means is 50 amps of sustained and 150 amps spikes. It is designed specifically 110 crawling, and as you see here, rated for 2 to 4S LiPo. Yes, that is very exciting. With that higher voltage rating also comes a wider operating range of BEC. You now have a 6 to 8.4 volt rated BEC, and it is a continuous 5 and a spike at 10 amps. So it's a 5 to 10 amp rated BEC. Should be good for a very wide range of applications when it comes to high powered servos. And you see here the most exciting part, the size. It's a standard Fusion Pro diameter 37 millimeters, but it is only 48.5 millimeters long. It does have the standard 1/8 inch shaft, or 3.15 or 3.175 millimeters if you prefer. And this guy is rated at 2300 kV. And like all instruction manuals, there are your programmable items. This chart tells you what settings the speed control has available, and it does have 14 settings. We're going to go through and talk about what each of these are in just a second. There you have it, a shiny new Fusion Pro Elite. This is the regular Fusion Pro. This is the Fusion Pro Elite. As you've probably seen in all the press releases, it's a tiny little guy, under 49 millimeters long, so smaller than a normal 540 size motor, but it has the speed control, the BEC, everything built right into it. Super cool 2-in-1 combination motor with the speed control built in. This is FOC technology, and if you don't know what that is, it's a closed loop censored system, different than your standard Hall effect sensors, if you will. That's an open loop where the motor's got to be in motion for the speed control to know what's going on. A closed loop system is constantly feeding information to the speed control, and that allows for some extremely precise throttle response, not only under low speed, but under high loads and things like that. And what that allows this to have is what we call FOC throttle matching, where the RPM of the motor is based off of your throttle position. This is super crucial for rock crawlers that are going up and down inclines as the weight of the vehicle shifts front to back, up to down, if you will. That can tug or pull back forward on the motor, and that changes the load, and it makes you have to change the throttle position to compensate. FOC takes that out of there, so now your throttle position will maintain that RPM, and as you come up to things, it doesn't really bog down. As you go down hills, it doesn't coast away from you. If you've never driven FOC before in a rock crawler, you're kind of missing out. I'd suggest it highly. Because I know everybody loves the calipers on the motors, we'll show you here 48 and some change, less than 49 millimeters on that length, and you have that 37 millimeter diameter. If that's way too much power cable for you, by all means, you can shorten that. I don't try to run full-length power cable on most of my builds because the less wire, less resistance, better performance. So you can remove the genuine AMAS brand XT60, either cut it off and unsolder it. You can crack this little insulator open and get down there to unsolder it. And I mean, really, half length is probably more than enough for most of our builds, but we do give you plenty of wire if you need. You do get a lot of on-off switch. I like to remind people that on-off switches on modern day electronic speed controls put the speed control to sleep. If it's getting power from the battery pack, there's circuit power in the system. So the best thing to do is make it so that you can turn your speed control on with the button when you need to, and to turn the speed control off, the best thing to do is always just unplug it from your battery pack. I go crawling all the time, and every once in a while we'll turn the switch off, we'll forget to unplug it. I'll come back to it many days later with the battery pack still plugged in. Needless to say, it's a bit of a risk, and a lot of times that'll actually ruin the battery because the power's still in there. There's a small draw, and depending on what's going on with the state of your battery, you can have some problems there. And then for the receiver, because this is a 2-in-1, this guy plugs into the throttle channel on your receiver, and you see you have your normal throttle channel wire with the red, the white, and the black, and you have an auxiliary input. This allows you to plug it into an auxiliary channel that is set up on a switch on your radio to do adjustments on the fly. So with that auxiliary channel, depending on what you have it assigned to, you can make it adjust a few different things, ranging from drag brake to push brake rate to even the FOC feel. And you can have this control the drive mode on the fly if you want to. Very cool. And if you don't have an auxiliary channel to use, that's fine. You just leave it unplugged and it works normally. Something we want to mention with any new system, there is a couple basic things you want to cover. You're going to install your new motor speed control into your vehicle. You're going to connect it to your radio system correctly. The speed control plugs into the throttle channel. That's number 2. And make sure that the orientation of this plug is correct. Some receivers' throttle channels are damaged if you plug this guy in the wrong direction. So be very careful of that. Once you get it installed, the next step is calibration. That's the part where the speed control learns the neutral, the full throttle, and the full reverse output of your throttle channel. If you don't do that, your speed control is not really working right, so make sure you cover the calibration. Once that gets completed, if you need to make setting changes, you can do so. The Fusion Pro Elite can have its settings changed with 2 different devices, the LCD Program Box Pro or the very basic LED program card. It does not work with the OTA or the Bluetooth that is built into this. QuicRun Series speed controls are not Bluetooth compatible. Fusion is an FOC system, and with that there's one additional calibration process that may or may not need to be done. If you run into any basic operational problems after an install, or maybe it works fine for a while and then it starts to act very strange, first thing you do is throttle calibration, obviously. But if that's not it, you're going to unplug the Fusion from the receiver, you're going to disconnect the pinion gear from the spur gear or take the pinion gear off, and you're going to do something that's called out in the manual as the automatic motor pairing process. And what that does is it allows the internal FOC sensors to run through a reset process to clear out any errors or goofy stuff that's going on from the FOC. First thing we're going to show you is the automatic motor pairing process. And for this, you have the speed control plugged into nothing except for the battery pack, and you definitely want to have your pinion gear disengaged. It is a long press and hold of the button. It'll start to flash red. You're going to keep holding it down. It takes give or take about 8 seconds. And then when it turns green, you let go of the button. And I put a little piece of tape on there so you can see that it ticks around just a little bit. And then once it gets done, it beeps at you. And the blinking red light and the constant beep means it's getting no signal from the receiver. So that's it. Next, we're going to show you the throttle calibration. I have the Fusion Pro Elite plugged into channel number 2, the throttle channel of my receiver. My receiver has already been bound to my radio. Calibration process starts by long press and holding the power button. It'll start to flash and then you'll let go. There's flashing, I let go. Starts to beep rapidly. I tap the button to set neutral. I then hold full throttle. I tap the button to set full throttle. I hold full reverse and I tap the button to set full reverse. It beeps twice for full throttle, 3 times for full reverse. It cycles through and calibration is complete. And then we have throttle operation. And you get a red light at neutral. You get a blinking light as you apply throttle. And as you get to full throttle, you get a solid light. And the same thing happens on the reverse side as well. All right, now we can talk about some of the settings or what has been updated in this Fusion Pro Elite. And to get in there, we're going to use this LED Program Card Pro. I removed the little protective binky, and on the very edge here, you see there are some indications or markings, if you will, that tell you which direction to plug the wire in. The black wire goes to where the negative is. I hit the power button. I have a battery plugged in over here. and then this guy powers on. To get into the speed control settings, you go into parameters, and if this doesn't work and you have it plugged into your receiver, unplug it from your receiver. If there's any signals coming out, maybe your radio is not turned on, failsafe is active, it'll block out the speed control from allowing any tuning, and you don't want that to happen. So I think what I'll do is I'll bring the setting sheet up, and we'll go through this and read through these and show what they all do. Show this in real time how it gets in there. The very first time you hook up, sometimes it'll take a little while for that to kick in, but once it gets through there, you're good. Now, running mode is where the biggest changes have come. We now have standard rock crawl mode, the forward with reverse with the RPM matching turned on, forward, reverse, and brake with the RPM matching turned on, and then we have the forward, reverse with the normal mode, so that has the RPM matching turned off. Then we have hybrid RPM and hybrid normal. So in these hybrid modes, it allows you to have RPM matching active and RPM matching inactive, and it allows you to change the drive mode on the fly based off of the auxiliary channel. So you can activate the crawler mode or the non-crawler mode with or without RPM matching. So in hybrid RPM, you'll be able to use your auxiliary channel to adjust between rock crawl driving and normal driving with the double tap or the push brake before you get to reverse with the RPM matching active. In hybrid normal, same basic idea. You can use the auxiliary channel to adjust from rock crawl mode to non-rock crawl mode, and it's with the RPM matching disabled, the FOC turned off. LiPo cells, if you're going to run more than one type of battery, you can allow this to auto calculate. So it'll pick a voltage based off of the battery pack when you plug it in, and then you can set your cutoff volts to different levels. So if you're going to run the same battery all the time, leave your LiPo cell set to whatever you're going to run for safety. And then if you want more or less milliamp usage, more or less run time out of your battery, you can use the cutoff volt setting, low, medium, or high for more or less. Low is going to give you the most amount of runtime or the lowest cutoff voltage. Generally speaking, that's going to be probably around 3.3 per cell, maybe a little bit lower. The default is going to be 3.5, 3.7 per cell. That's the middle or the medium setting, and then the high setting will usually be above 3.7. And I say usually because LiPo cutoff voltages are always going to vary. It depends on the health of the battery pack, condition of the plugs, all sorts of really fun, nerdy stuff like that, but it's never really going to match, and that's why we have it as a high, medium, and low. After that, you have ESC thermal. That is the thermal protection for the speed control that's inside. That is going to get hotter than the motor, so you don't have to worry about the motor temperature because the speed control is in there. So ESC thermal protection allows you to have either just a high or a low setting. We don't let you disable that. Motor rotation, this one's very important for rock crawl builders because if you put this all in your vehicle, you apply throttle and the wheels run reverse, use motor rotation to correct that. Don't use the throttle channel reverse on your radio. That's what this setting is here for. BEC voltage, as we talked about, more adjustable than it was before, all the way up to 8.4 volts because of the higher voltage operating range. One thing to note, 8.4 BEC voltage won't work on a 2-cell LiPo because a 2-cell LiPo full charged isn't high enough voltage to keep the BEC at that. There's some natural losses that happen, and if your main battery voltage isn't higher than your BEC voltage, it doesn't work that way. A BEC is a voltage regulator, it's a step-down regulator, not a step-up regulator. Drag brake is your neutral brake, or your auto brake, your rock crawl brake, if you will. When you let off the throttle, how hard it stops. Defaults to setting 5. If you want it to be stronger, you raise it. If you want it to be lower, or if you want it to be weaker, you lower it. Drag brake rate is the speed at which the drag brakes apply. So if you're thinking about you're in a real car and you're pressing your brake to stop, it's how quickly you're pressing the brake, and that applies to the drag brake here. So auto's nice because it's kind of speed sensitive. If you're driving along at a medium clip and you let off the throttle rapidly, it knows that you don't want to slam on the brakes because you're going fast, and it applies it slowly. But when you're on the rocks going slow and you let off the throttle rapidly, it still applies the brakes pretty rapidly because it knows you're crawling and you need to stop right away. So auto works really well. If you don't like auto changing on, or you want it low all the time or high all the time, you can change that higher or lower as you see fit. Max reverse is exactly that. It's the power or the speed of the reverse. Some of us are not very good at operating a reverse. Reverse always feels twitchy because it's easy to pull the throttle or squeeze the trigger, but it's harder to push it away. So you can lower the max reverse if you need to compensate for that. Brake force is when you're using the basher modes, you can adjust the brake force up or down to have stronger or weaker push brakes when you apply the brakes. This doesn't apply when you're using the rock crawl modes. RPM decrease rate is the FOC's throttle matching sensitivity. The higher this is, the harder the speed control tries to match the RPM of the motor to wherever your throttle is. The lower it is, the more kind of time delay there's going to be on that, the less sensitive that response is. So if you move your throttle real rapidly, you want that a little lower. If you're doing a lot of real fine crawling and you really like that locked in feel of the FOC, you can start to increase that RPM decrease rate setting. Punch is the speed control throttle response. If you want very linear throttle response, you turn that all the way up. 1:1 is where you want it. Punch all the way up is going to give you the most linear throttle response. If you smash the throttle, the speed control is going to try to do that. If you find that maybe your battery packs aren't super good, dirty worn out plugs, you need to use an adapter, you get a little chatter or a hesitation when you mash the gas, lowering the punch will help fight that off if you will. It slows down the speed control's responses to your input. Neutral range, or the deadband between throttle and reverse. If the drag brakes are inconsistent, if you feel like the car kind of wanders or chatters every once in a while, it's from your throttle pod on your radio. These guys have like a mechanical pod in them, some radios, that gets worn out over time. Some RTR radios just don't have a super consistent neutral. So this neutral range is there to allow you to increase or decrease for how good or bad your throttle sensitivity is on your actual trigger or your throttle on your radio. Like I said, if you get real inconsistent drag brakes or the motor wants to run on its own a little bit, just start increasing that neutral range setting. And the auxiliary function. Now this allows you to assign the auxiliary channel to do different things. You can have it control different items. So we'll jump in here and look. You can have it control item 7, 8, 9, or 10, as well as item number 1. So item number 1, you can have it change between the different drive modes on the fly. So if you want to lock in different drive modes or try all 5 of them, you would use item number 1. Item 7 allows you to adjust your drag brake on the fly. Item 8 allows you to adjust the drag brake rate. So let's say you like the drag brake where you like it, but you want to mess with that speed feel or how quickly it applies the brakes, or maybe use that for different applications. That's what item number 8 adjusting is for. If you want to turn your reverse power up or down on the fly, you can do that with item number 9. And item number 10 is your max brake force. So if you're using this in the regular driving mode, you can have push brake adjustability on the fly. So auxiliary function allows you to assign the feature that the auxiliary wire is going to adjust. And then if you make a bunch of settings and you don't like it, you got your reset parameters. One thing that I didn't mention, you do have to, when you jump in and you make some setting changes, you're going to select it by pressing down on the button, and it won't save until you actually hit the save button. So make sure that as you make your setting changes, you hit save, otherwise you can change everything and nothing will save into the speed control. And in case you're wondering, all of the default settings have the little asterisk next to them. So if you liked it the way that it was before you changed it, you can go back to your defaults by going back to the asterisk setting. Okay, so on default settings, it comes with the auxiliary channel set to item number 7, which is your drag brake power. So if you want stronger or weaker hill brake on the fly. I have it plugged into channel number 3. I have channel number 3 is set to this dial here, and right now it is at the 0 value, so I can pretty much spin this very easily, like it's no problem. And I can go all the way up. That's going to crank my drag brake all the way up to 100%, and it doesn't want to spin now. Like that guy doesn't want to move. This is much stiffer. So you get an idea there that on the fly drag brake is the idea there. So if I'm driving along at high speed, I have no drag brake, and as I get to the rocks, I can start to crank my drag brake up if I want. Now I know there's more to talk about. I want to get this installed into a truck and show off those cool new drive modes and talk about what those actually do. We're going to do that in a future episode, I guarantee it. These are the actual production box samples. We had some rushed over just for this video. So instead of waiting to get this out on the rocks, dealing with the rain and whatnot, I wanted to do an unboxing and run through how the features work so that as soon as you guys get these in your hands, you know how to change settings, how to calibrate, all that fun stuff. It's very much like the original Fusion Pro was, just a little bit different. So what's my take? I've been running one of these for a few weeks. Like I said, just the settings have changed, but the core motor and speed control that I have in my test truck is pretty much the same. The 4-cell operation is awesome. Having that little bit of extra wheel speed on tap is great, but I can't see that being a problem if you don't have a ton of what I'll call self-control. With great power comes great responsibility, so you do have to be a little bit wary of that. You do have a smaller motor setup than what the Fusion Pro is. So if you're looking for all-out power, stump pulling, all that, and the 4-cell thing's not a big deal, that Fusion Pro is still going to be kind of the way to go. Like anything, if you take all the cool features and shrink them down, there's gonna be a couple little things that change here and there, and I'll just leave it at that. Like, it's smaller, it's more compact. If that's the main goal, that's what this guy's all about. Cool new features are definitely great. I love the auxiliary channel integration and being able to adjust things on the fly, of course. And I mean, look at that thing. It's just a little tiny 10-scale motor ready to make your crawling dreams come true. Do you like podcasts? We've got a podcast. It's called RC Stuff, powered by HOBBYWING. We give away free RC stuff each and every episode. All you have to do to find out how to enter to win is listen to an episode. Look up RC Stuff, powered by HOBBYWING, or get it straight off the tap in the link down below. And as always, if you do have any questions, comments, or concerns, please shoot us an email, northamerica@hobbywing.com. As always, folks, thanks for watching. It's the Charlie Show right here on the HOBBYWING official YouTube channel. Like I said, much more on the Fusion Pro Elite coming in a future video. I'm going to get this guy installed. We're going to do an install video, do a running video, all that fun stuff. If you're watching this now, there is still time to come see us at Proline by the Fire, Apple Valley, California. It's a big rock crawl event. There's an expo area, and we will have the HOBBYWING booth set up. You'll be able to pick one of these up on